Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of our Jasper Developer Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by the amazing Jason Gisi. Jason, thank you.
Wow. It's the first time I've been called amazing in my whole life. You're welcome.
What do you look most forward in doing these, Jason? This is like number 6 or 7, and you keep coming back. So what do you like about doing these?
I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy getting the facts out so that our residents know what we're up to and what we're trying to achieve and where the market might be at. But I think that communication with associations historically is very scripted, managed by the company that manages
The management company.
the community. And I understand the reasons for that. So this creates, not a situation where I get to answer any and every question that someone might have. So it's efficient from my perspective because some of those questions like, the dog pooped in my yard and I'm pissed off about it, right? Like I have other things I need to get done every day.
Right.
But it creates conversation about what's going on and it also creates a living history where there's a library of this stuff where folks that move into our community can understand where we came from, where we've been, where we're trying to go. And I think that that's all very positive.
Absolutely.
Whether someone likes what I have to say or not, I think that it's important that putting the content out there creates that kind of track record and also gives someone the ability to hold us to our promises. And so, as you know, I'm very careful with the promises, right? And I'll be very honest when we're maybe not real popular because we haven't gotten something done like plants planted as
Which
timely
are now
as
done.
other people. Well,
So
it
that's
took a
huge.
long time, right? And so it's a great example. I mean, we want our community to look as good as our residents want it to look.
Right.
And there can be labor issues and there can be plant shortages and there's seasonality to it. It's not as simple as just getting
A fix.
yeah. And so in your yard at your house, if you got a dead plant, you can go to a lot of different places, get a new plant and fix it on Saturday, right? When you're doing it in bulk and when you have warranty issues, it doesn't ever work that quickly.
Looks a little different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a little he said, she said going on, right? Like, I don't know what's my liability versus yours, and we always have to work through that. But that's just a difference in running a business versus running a household.
Yeah. Good point. Well, let's start with what have we been up to? Because the last time we did this was July or end of June maybe, and we kind of called that one the overall kind of market update. This feels probably a little bit of a continued thread with that conversation that we had earlier. So we're now a quarter, into the future based on when we last got together in July. So what's been going on?
State of the union would be that the new home space nationally is slow, continues to be slow. Mortgage rates have fallen a bit. From a historical perspective, mortgage rates are attractive. That really hasn't triggered much buying like it would have in the past. Inflation obviously is an issue. Affordability ties into the inflation. And so, we continue to slog through just a market that's neither good nor bad. There are months that are better as it relates to visitation through the models and contracts written. Other months are not so good.
Right.
Sometimes one builder has a good month and then the other builder doesn't, and then it flip-flops the next month. So what it really points to me is it's a market that is not in transition. It's like stale and stuck, and the market doesn't know, are things going to be good in the new year? Are things going to not good in the new year? What should I do? And primarily we sell to folks that are stable in their lives. And so they have optionality. And so whenever they get confused, they don't do anything. And I'm getting to the age where I can relate to that.
Sure.
You earn that throughout the course of your life and your career, and you have some form of stability and safety. And, should we really buy that new house?
Creates additional uncertainty.
Absolutely, because it's always expensive. I mean, it's not just about buying a house. I mean, my wife would never let me buy a new house and not put new furnishings in that new house, right? So it always costs money,
Right.
and so in times where, you know, maybe the average person looking at Jasper specifically, from a wealth perspective, is very well heeled, very solid. They look around and go, "Gee, my home insurance is higher, my health insurance is higher, my auto insurance is higher. I don't like my grocery bill. It's crazy to take my wife out and not order drinks and still spend $100 on two people." And you go, so it's real easy then to say, you know, honey, let's just see how this works out.
Sure.
We don't have to make a decision now. Let's see how the first quarter, second quarter goes. Then we'll make a decision. And so you can't blame people for thinking that way.
No.
In a metro market, you have folks that have families and they have jobs and they have careers and they have big bills, and they got to make decisions, right? And so whether it's the school district or the new job or whatever's driving that buyer to make the decision, they have to decide and go. Our buyers really don't have to do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of the builder piece and trickling this down further with what we're seeing activity-wise with phase 3 or J8, as our residents would know it. You know, it's an interesting time to introduce eco homes to Jasper, given the current reality. So, you know, what's that been like over the last quarter? What surprised you maybe? Maybe what hasn't surprised you, but what also is informing kind of the future as it relates to eco?
So dating eco back to, I believe, June of 2023, you look at the timing in hindsight and you go, that wasn't the best time to start a home builder. And I don't know that there really ever is a good time. You find out in hindsight whether it was good or bad. So that part's fine. Company gets built, it's staffed, it's closing deals, had its first profitable quarter ever. Just barely, but
Just barely.
it still
But
counts.
it
It still
counted.
counts. And so you look at the builder and you go, okay, it's worked. The road ahead is more of the concern. And so when we look at 8 and phase 3 is what I call it, of course, because it's my phase 3 as it relates to lots. Those are great lots. They're forever view lots, backed up against open space, access out to Highway 69. And I think that what we'll continue to do is meter those houses out. There's no reason. We have lots of lots in our future that are more in the category of a lot. Those lots, there's a lot of special lots. And so the market ebbs and it flows. And there are times when the view lots will absolutely get just sold out, right? First, because that's what the market wants. They don't care about the price.
Right.
Other times they really care about the price. So my phase 5, which is the phase we're working on right now, which will be what?
7B.
7B is much more affordable. We have a lot of interest in that phase. It makes sense based on market timing, where traditionally in our market, I think I'm here 28 years. It was November of 1996 when I moved here. So I can't do the math that quick. Maybe our producer can work on his calculator.
If he's awake.
Yeah, maybe. So there's been multiple times where we've ebbed and flowed where the buyer is worried about the cost of the home, the legacy cost of the home, where's the economy going to go? And so they become very conservative and they buy less house than they can afford. There are other times when the market is good and there's a lot of momentum where people definitely buy more house. And I'm not going to say that they can't afford it, but they'll stretch themselves the other way. And that conversation always looks like, hey, this is our last home. Why wouldn't we buy the view lot? Why wouldn't we upgrade the kitchen?
Sure.
You can just see it in the way that money gets spent. So right now we're definitely on a low ebb. People are looking for a nice, clean house that's efficient moving into the future. And phase 5 is going to offer that. So we'll be, in my opinion, in the main vein of the market shortly, where our phase 3 presently finds itself outside the main vein. And the problem at my desk always is when we make the decision to develop a phase, we make that decision in the market that day. We then deliver that finished product somewhere between 12 and 18 months later into a market that we haven't met yet. And so right now, for the time being, phase 3 is kind of out of market. That will change over the course of time. Phase 5 looks like it's smack dab in the middle of the market. So we're excited about that. And it's a very tough balancing act because our lead times are just very long in this business from the time we decide to build to the time we finish that project.
There's a couple of positive things, though, that are shaping, to just name them, right? Because what I hear you saying is obviously it's hard to time it because we don't know what we're going to be delivering into a certain market window. But also there's a reality, and there's in one, the fact that, you know, Jasper EcoDev as a home builder entity as Eco Homes. And as we look at the current reality of Jasper, it's well positioned to really have a product that fits every market condition. You have, as you spoke to, phase 3, J8, you have 2A, 3B, right, which is another completely different type of product, right, and it would attract a different buyer. And then you have phase 5, right, which is even another layer. So all of what you're saying and the timing and the not knowing, but it also sounds like at least overall we're well positioned.
There's no doubt that the northern end of Jasper is going to allow us to continue to feed the more affordable side of the marketplace. We'll never be the cheapest in the county. That's not our intent, but as it relates to our menu, our offerings, we have a lot of inventory at that level. What we're always trying to do, the builders like to talk about, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 5 lanes, those different price points, those different product types. The reality of it is if you can have 3.5-ish, overall, you're doing good as far as a developer goes. And so what we're really trying to do there is hit different price points, different size requirements, different bedroom counts, so that we have an offering for as many people as we meet. Now, most people that come through your model complex aren't going to buy your house. From a historical perspective, about 10% of visitors convert to contracts. So it's a numbers game. So part of having that menu is to suck in as many interested parties, people that are interested in our marketplace, and they're checking out our development, our community. We know that we're not going to convert a very high number of those folks, but we'll convert a higher number based on the amount of products that we can offer in a single spot.
Right.
That's what we're trying to achieve. And we always balance along those lines, because one product might get really hot and then we find ourselves in short supply.
Sure.
The other product might not be very hot ever, and it may just be a slow mover. So it's one of these teeter-totters that we're always riding, trying to find balance. But moving forward, Jasper's very well positioned now that we've, I'm going to say, fully pioneered it. We have one connection left to make, and that's Alcoma. The utilities have been connected. For phase 5, the paving of that road will occur with phase 6. And so we're finally out of the off-site business where we built a water storage tank, we built Jasper Parkway, we built Santa Fe Loop and extended it onto the property. We brought the utilities and we'll bring access through Alcoma. Our last connection in this project will be to Dells Ranch Road up on the northwest corner at sometime in the future to be determined, connecting to Prescott, not Prescott Valley. So it will help us get more efficient. It helps drive our costs down to build our lots, and that should help us maintain affordability I always hate saying that word because it's so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Your idea of what's affordable might not be mine or Benny's.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the more we can be in a 550 to 650 type price range,
Mm-hmm.
the more units we're going to sell.
Right.
That's just the reality of our marketplace.
Right. Which is part of the priority around building out the rest of phase 3, right? As we look at J9 or R3A, will be within that kind of price point. We obviously have other sections that are in phase 2 that kind of meet it. So again, going back to my earlier comment, like the diversity is there. We get a lot of questions about, the numbering of phases, right? And so there was a question that came in too that was like, what about phase 4? And so phase 4 being on, obviously the south side of the project, and given the current reality of, the delayed interest, we'll say that with phase 3, there's obviously no priority to mobilize phase 4 over a phase 6.
No, the priority would be 6 over 4, and we have to get a long ways through phase 3 to get real excited about doing 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a tough situation for us because when you have, let me back up a second, going back to moving here in 1996, forever the buyer would come in and say, I want pine trees, a view, or both. And so pine trees obviously is Prescott. Pine trees in Prescott pretty much boils down to an older house now.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not available, right, in a new home.
Mm-mm.
So view shed being the co-number one most important aspect of a lot that someone wants to live on, we have view is very subjective. I sold I'm thinking about selling a lot to a couple from Oklahoma some years back, and they were standing on the lot and they said, my Jason, the view is unbelievable. And I'm like looking around, like thinking, I'm an Arizona native. And so my idea of what a view is certainly not someone who's from Eastern Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
that's timbered. And, you can see like the sky above your house,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of the country. There aren't really big expansive views out there when you get east of Wichita.
Right.
And so those view lots are special. They're worth more money. The hard part is always at what cost,
Mm-hmm.
because it's never free to hold that lot either.
Right.
So another one of these balancing acts that we try to play. I personally think that what we'll see on phase 3 is we'll see better absorption in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be great absorption? I don't know. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can always hope that doesn't cost extra. But right now the answer is, yeah, there's people interested. There's contracts out for signature. The buy cycle is very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by the buy cycle is in a hot market, you'll have people that will buy, on the second trip, third trip.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're in a situation where, someone might visit us 8 or 9 times
Crazy.
before they sign a contract. And that's just back to macroeconomic indecision. They're sitting at their kitchen table and they're talking it out and they're looking at their finances and they're going, well, we can afford this. That's why they keep coming back. But do we want to afford this in this time frame?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody gets to make their own decision along those lines. But it's the last 3 years have been a slog. That it hasn't been a recession, meaning we haven't hit the technical definition that the federal government uses for a recession.
Mm-hmm.
But in the new home space, anybody who's in or around it or understands it looks at new homes nationally and goes, man, it's been in a recession.
Mm-hmm. You spoke to kind of macroeconomic elements at play, and I'm curious, given where we're at in life cycle of Jasper, are you seeing a big difference in terms of cost to develop now compared to, back in 2018? What does that look like?
The first 2 phases were definitely over budget. And back to that timeline to build a phase, when we estimate how much asphalt and concrete costs, the streets and the curbs and the sidewalks come at the end of the job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very normal for our estimate ahead of time to not be correct when we actually quote unquote buy out that contract.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So lately, what we've been experiencing is we've been coming in on or slightly below estimated cost for the total project. Very recently, what I'm hearing from the contractors in the marketplace is I'm out of backlog, meaning I don't have jobs stacked up behind the job I'm finishing right now. And my guess would be that in the new year, we're going to see better pricing to finish lots.
Better pricing, and it feels like, especially with phase 5, much quicker development time, right? Like phase 5, and I get it, phase 3, obviously at Jasper Parkway, different beast, but phase 5 was quick.
We're going to get more and more like phase 5 because our offsites are completed substantially. And then our on-site backbone infrastructure like Jasper Parkway is the easy example. When we're doing what we call in-tract, we're just building the lots inside of existing infrastructure on our project. Mm-hmm. It's much cheaper. It gets built much faster. Mm-hmm. And so it's like any other business. I mean, the start is always just a son of a gun. Yeah.
I like that. Speaking of kind of timeline too, and just with how speedy phase 5 has been, and I know a lot of our homeowners were really excited to tour and see phase 3 when it opened. Do you have a month or a timeline that models are open for phase 5 or 7B that Jasper homeowners will be able to view them?
We have a challenge with one of the utilities that's pushing our schedule out to February for paving. And so what we'd like to be able to do to the extent possible is run a parallel course with models and finish of the subdivision. That's always tricky because you end up with vertical contractors in the way of horizontal contractors and vice versa. So it feels to me like I'm hoping March, by overlapping to some extent, we can have, by the end of March, we can have those models open and operational. We certainly had hoped and have built the job based on the fact that we were going to get it done much quicker. Mm-hmm. But we've had a stumble with APS on the power, and we're working through that presently. So we have good demand in that phase. We'd like to have it done yesterday. Mm-hmm. This is the nature of the beast. It gets done when it gets done.
Sure. And in that interim, for our listeners, I know the sales office that was originally at 7A will be open shortly so that people can at least have somewhere to go in and get pricing and information and all of that kind of stuff. So just in case Dave Bullock is listening, I'm not telling people they need to wait until March to go check that out.
And my understanding in phase 5 is we have multiple parties that are ready to write contracts. Right. We're the holdup. Mm-hmm. Again, back to affordability. That price point is hitting the right spot in the marketplace where people are comfortable. They're not having to sit at their kitchen table and really think about it a whole lot. Well, hey, for that price, we get to move into a new house, got a warranty. We love the community. We're ready to write at that price. And it's very normal. People just contract. I mean, coming out of the Great Recession, there are people in my life that would kind of talk a little bit of smack about Granville next door. And I'd be like, hey, man, be careful. The net worth of the people in Granville is probably the same or higher than the people in Jasper. Mm-hmm. They're just much more conservative. Right. They came from Iowa, right? And they need a house where it's sunny. Mm-hmm. They're not worried about the stuff that we offer. And of course, that's why people differentiate their projects in a marketplace so that the buying public can make their decision. But, the house that a pre-retiree or a retiree chooses to buy is exactly that. It's choice. Mm-hmm. There's no need about it.
Right. Good point.
So who knows? But I think that, with phase 5 coming, we're going to have a better 2026. we're in great position to feed that fire. And I think that, if phase 3 goes slower like it has to date, then we'll just adjust to it. We don't have a choice. And that's okay.
Knowing what you know now, would you have developed phase 5 before phase 3?
So we went back and forth, and unfortunately I get to own this decision. So I picked 3, but
This wasn't me putting you on blast, just so you know.
it's okay. The other reason that we had to go with 3 is because we had a contractual obligation to the town to build Jasper Parkway out to the highway. So, in a perfect world, we would have lived up to our fiscal responsibility or the promises in our contract and built 5, but it just didn't make any sense to do that. That the road was just too expensive not to develop the lots next to the road. That was the most efficient way to go about it. And it'll be fine over the course of time. It's just market timing, macroeconomic phenomenon we cannot control. And it's always our biggest risk in this business. It's really like oil. Why does a house sell? I challenge anyone to tell me why. Because in my career, people are either buying houses or not. There'll be a trigger in the economy that we can't understand. In hindsight, we'll be able to see that it was the trigger that started the home buying. We know we have pent up demand for the last 3+ years, that something will go on. And I'll use the example this week of the Trump administration floating a 50-year mortgage. I personally don't think that's going to trigger a whole bunch of buying, but you don't know. I tell you what would trigger a whole bunch of buying is getting inflation down,
Right.
and having our national debt level off and have people trust that. Like, okay, it's not rising anymore, it's leveling off, and maybe it has a chance now to go down. That would help rates and buyers' confidence.
Sure. Switching gears here for a second, because obviously speaking of macroeconomic phenomenon and things out of our control, our homeowners recently heard as part of the October Jasper Community Association board meeting about dues. And so assessments increasing by 10%, J Club dues increasing by 10%, not uncommon or unexpected given the current reality of the cost of everything, inflation, absorption obviously looking different than what was expected for it to be in terms of the numbers of homes paying into those two different entities. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of how do you continue to sustain those two entities. Obviously, they're subsidized by Jasper EcoDev. How is that factoring into your planning right now?
Well, I'm going to start with the club. The club, when we originally did the pro forma, which was probably circa 2017, it's getting to the point where it's almost 10 years ago, which is pretty crazy. The estimated break even to sustain the club was 650 units. That's not including food and beverage, just the club. The reality over that period of time is we've had real inflation, costs have increased. And so for us to have a dues increase at 10%, that I'm actually kind of proud of it because we haven't been ratcheting up dues over the course of time. Just like everything else we do, we make our best guess at the time. Then we go execute and we find out how bad we missed. It's literally how it works. And so my recollection is state statute gives us a maximum of 20% per year.
For the association, yeah.
And so, have we done a good job? I think the answer is yes. I'm sure there are other people out there that can take exception to this or that. But overall, I think, the quality of the facility, the quality of the management, we keep the asset up. We the dog park became a problem, right? We didn't put a Band-Aid on it. We fixed it. And so when we're in good marketplaces, it's much easier to fix stuff and not put Band-Aids on it.
Right.
My concern is that if we continue in this malaise in the new home space nationally, well, you get to this time next year, things are tight. And so now you have to look at cutting things back. You either have to raise dues or cut them back. You have to drive your revenue or reduce your expenses. And what we're always trying to do is both. You touched on absorption. And so, slightly technical term, but just so everybody understands, absorption is how many houses are we selling, closing, and what are the amount of new residents we're adding on an annual basis.
Right.
So the more absorption we have, the more households, I guess I should say, we have to spread these costs across. And so inflation is less of a problem if we have more people paying for that increase. Well, that hasn't been our case.
Right.
So we, the developer, have been chowing down on the subsidy to keep everything up. It's part of the business plan to start. Obviously, we had hoped that we would be further along as far as households. Presently, I think we're in the 460
Around there.
range. If you look back at our projections, we probably think we'd be closer to 800 right now. We have the lots for that. We don't have the houses. Why? People don't want to buy them.
Yeah, demand.
Right, demand. And so it's not a science, it's an art form, and you keep managing to it. So I don't, I'm no different than anybody else as a father in my own household, right? Gisi Inc. I look at my costs and go, holy cow, are you kidding me? So I totally get it. Running the business, we have a moderate increase that is more than fair. And I don't want to say that I'm proud of that. I am proud that we've kept the asset up. We don't, we've taken care of our end of the promise, if you will. We didn't just build a building and then, if I'm picking on, a water fountain breaks, it doesn't just sit there.
Right.
We fix it. We want it to look good. Part of that is we're trying to sell more houses. Someone might say, well, you're only doing that because that's your marketing. And I'd say, well, yeah, that's true. Part of that is we have a customer in the form of an existing resident.
Who gets to use it.
Yeah, we don't want them complaining at us either, right? All that costs money. And so as time goes on and we add more residents and we add more people paying into the system, it gets easier to balance these budgets. One thing that we're looking at this is the time of year when we're doing all of our budgeting and planning for the new year. We're revisiting the pro forma for the club and the association and going, okay, based on today's price points, where's break even at?
Yeah.
It's not 650. We know
Right.
that.
Right.
And so we're blessed with density and scale. And so that will be our friend and our residents' friends over the course of time.
Sure.
Right now, lack of scale is not our friend. And we've been, I think, honorable as it relates to our residents because we haven't said, okay, well, here, you get a chow down on max increases every year.
Right. And we have 3 years now of running a club to be able to speak to. We know what it costs. We know what that operational expense looks like. We're able to, and that's part of the budgeting process on the club side is, what's needed in order to not just sustain, make sure it continues to look nice and manage the wear and tear, but then where are the opportunities to continue to capitalize? Activation, if Stuart was here too, continues to be like the play, right? How do we continue to make sure it's activated? And so there's intentionality obviously in that. What would you like to see in terms of more activation of J Club? What would that look like?
Well, that's well beyond my expertise, Marlo. How's that for honesty? I look at it and I leave and I see people playing cards and having meetings in the great room. I see yoga classes, right? Out my window, we have water aerobics and the pool's full when the weather's nice. And so, it's probably not so much for me as our producers laughing at you, zinging me on this deal.
It is a zinger because
Yeah.
I have a follow-up because one of the things that people are asking about is, and speaking
Yeah, what do you really want to ask me? Go ahead.
what I really want to ask you is where can a homeowner expect additional capital improvements be dedicated? You spoke to, obviously, the dog park. And then you have the people that don't use the dog park that want to know, well, what's in it for
Why
me?
don't you ask me not an open-ended question and tell me what people are asking for?
People are asking about that second pool being heated.
It's a cost thing, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were going to heat the pool today, we would increase the dues to a max this year and a max next year. And so some people might say, cool, I want to heat a pool. Others might not.
Right.
And so I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, the timing is not good. On our side of that equation, I can understand people's requests.
Sure.
The pool's going to end up heated. We don't have the scale that we thought we were going to have at the present time, or I guess that we anticipated we were going to have by now, and we haven't sold the houses.
Right.
So that's the honest answer.
Yeah. And all of this is...
Is she an attorney?
I did
What's
tell
all
him
the
the other
leading
day.
about? I feel like it's a deposition.
I did say the other day I wanted to be a lobbyist in another life.
They're all attorneys.
Right. Can see the connection there. No, and I think the reality obviously makes sense. It's justifiable. It's just these are the questions that are getting asked, right? And our other favorite topic that gets asked a lot in preparation for these developer podcasts is about Superb and the restaurant, right? And so, what's the trigger that would allow for an indoor restaurant space? Or what are some of the things that, Jasper EcoDev is considering as it relates to the ongoing use, sustainability, longevity of having a food and beverage vendor at J Club?
Well, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we paid for a tent.
We did pay for a tent.
So the next step is in process. Food and beverage is a tough one. We love having that service. Our residents do too. The management of food and beverage is, I think it's easy to say. I think most people understand that restaurants are not easy things to manage. From a labor perspective, from a cost perspective. And so one thing we were very hopeful of is that when we added the liquor, that we would see an increase in revenue. You tell me.
No,
Yeah.
we didn't.
So apparently people at Jasper are healthy and they don't like boozing.
Or they
there's
decided
nothing
to
wrong
just
with
come
that,
for their
right?
beverage and go home and, make a
maybe
sandwich.
it's just one. Maybe it's just one pop and then we're good. But we really thought that we would have more revenue from having liquor on site, and you could walk, stumble, get a ride home, whatever, in a safe situation. But yeah, so far that hasn't worked. Is that market timing? Would I rather pay for the steak and not the bottle of wine? I don't know.
Right.
I think with some people it is. I know that when I take my family out to dinner and everybody wants to order drinks, I'm grinding my molars. Like, it's easy for you to spend my money for your liquor, right? So I don't know. The jury's out on that. Obviously, we've made the commitment to food and beverage. We will continue that. Moving towards an indoor situation makes sense. I got no problem saying that. In a perfect world, we would build a building on the event lawn in order to create a dining room so that whether it was windy, hot, cold, it would work. I think that that's where our future lies. When do we get to that future? That's the real question. And so at some point, there will be a run in the housing marketplace. I can't predict why that will happen. I just know from history that that's what happens. And that will give us a different deck of cards that we'll be able to play as it relates to all these questions.
Right.
It's the best I can do at the present time.
It all makes sense. And I think
so.
I think it's exciting to see, what the future holds. And those are all of my questions too. So I think we'll end with it feels like a lot of unknown, but as I refer back to kind of our beginning conversation, it's well-positioned, thoughtful planning, and we don't have a magic 8 ball.
My life would be so much easier if I knew where we would be this time next year, right? And frankly, I get paid to guess. And that's exactly what it is. And then we adjust to those guesses as quickly as we can based on how that next year plays out. I think that it's safe to say this, though. Our area is established, whether that's Phoenix Metro, Southern California, wherever, right? People know about the Prescott area. Prescott's basically the brand. We're sitting in Prescott Valley. And so Yavapai County is not going to go away. Moving forward, the question in my mind is, what's the capacity for it to grow? And so as we wrap it up, prior to the Great Recession, the highest permit count that I remember was like 3,200 permits in a year. Now, immigration law was different. Okay, we had lots of Mexican labor. Houses were built much quicker. We call that cycle time. And a lot more throughput is the new age term. We could get a lot more through the system in 12 months than we can now. So it feels to me like we've lost in the marketplace as it relates to the trades, we've lost capacity. So when we got out of the Great Recession and we got back to about 1,200 units in our marketplace, 3,200 to 12, minus 2,000 per year, massive change.
Wow.
It feels to me like maybe that 1,200 is going to self-level more like 900 to 1,000 is my guess.
Makes sense.
And so I guess what I'm wondering is, let's say that there's a run in the second quarter of 2026. How many houses can you actually build? How many contracts can we take in responsibly and look the buyer in the eye and say, okay, Marlo, we will have your house done in 10 months, 12 months, whatever the number is, right? I mean, smaller production houses were getting built in 75 days.
Oh.
Like I lived in this market when that happened. I witnessed it. It's not fantasy. It is today. It's never coming back. Much more regulation, less labor. Our tradesmen are aging out of the economy, right? Like where's our plumbers and our framers and our concrete man coming from? Maybe that's going to change with AI because now there's a big, I think with young people, there's a big push away from technology because, gee, if I'm a really good computer programmer today, do I have a job next year?
Probably not.
Or does the computer just program itself?
Right.
So there's the market's always fluid. It's always evolving. And I think one of my main concerns is, okay, how do we play our cards? Let's say we have 2,000 units left in Jasper, but our production of units, maybe our capture rate could be, I'll just say 200. Okay. 200 closed units a year would be massive.
It'd be huge.
That's a 10-year supply if everything went perfect in Gisi's fantasy world, right? So we know that ain't going to happen. And you look at it and go, okay, how do you get them built? The other piece of it is price point, just cost. People expect a hell of a lot more for their money than they did when they were buying a house for $299. The market is way less forgiving for good reason.
Yeah, they're paying for it.
They're paying for it. And so, that's another reason that things slow down, right? It's just a different situation, different scenario. So how do you budget all of this stuff in a time when simply getting the permit to build the phase, it has never been more difficult. Like the regulatory burden, the red tape, the hoops we have to jump through on a fully entitled project.
Right.
Meaning in 2014, I believe, the map that we put forth, generally we're building it.
And remind me how many units were approved back then?
3,450, I believe. And I don't see us hitting that number. Roads, parks, stuff like that, take away lots, which is all part of it. But how do you, what is a good guesstimate of what the velocity of this subdivision will be, because it pertains to food and beverage, just like heated pools to mowing grass. It's all one big living organism on my desk. And so speed is going down because costs are up. That means we have to relook at everything and make some new assumptions, because Prescott Valley doesn't operate the way Prescott Valley once did. It is very difficult to get projects done here. Now, Prescott, my whole career, it's always been a pain to get a project done. Prescott Valley, for the first 20 years of my career, was the business friendly, growth community. That's not the politics we're dealing with today. I don't see that changing. I don't. We're in essence, more Sun City North than we are old Prescott Valley. Prescott Valley was always the families, the worker bees, so to speak. It's changed. It's past tense. And so, you have to take all this into account midstream, and you're constantly rejiggering your plans in order to meet the needs across, I don't know, Joe Contadino, he's our neighbor, Universal Homes, Granville subdivision. He's the developer. He's the guy. Sit with Joe, and he said, Jason, people just don't understand. When you get to your desk every day, there's 100 knobs. They're all fake. You can't see them. But you're going to touch those knobs and adjust them every day that you're in there, because you're trying to sync up, home sales, dues, tradesmen, financial institutions. I mean, there's all these variables that come into play on a project like Jasper over a very long horizon of time. Joe is finishing up his last lots, and I'm going to guess and tell you that from start to finish, and I'm going to call dirt actually started moving, let's call it 25 years. From the vision to finish, it's probably 30 for Granville. And Granville was very similar in size as far as density goes.
Right.
So, we're less than 10 years into it. Very clearly we have at least 2/3 to go. Probably 75% of the project is ahead of us. So that's good and bad, right? We have plenty of time to make a plan, execute, keep things as best we possibly can. You're also exposed to the market over all that period of time, where you can anticipate where your costs are at or where they're going, and you can back up.
Yeah, you have the time to balance the knobs.
Yeah. Overly smart people don't do this for a living.
I feel like we need to make that the title of this podcast.
Yeah. No, I've had this talk with Stuart before. I'm like, hey, man, just so you know, smart guys don't do this. They buy existing projects like apartment complexes that are already leased, where they can understand the costs and they can understand the revenues. They can say, okay, we can make it better here and we can make it better there. Yeah, I'll pay this for that. They don't go invent stuff. Our life is much more fun, much more risky. So anyway, you better cut me off, because I can talk about this all day long. And there's probably only, a handful of people out there that actually understand what I'm saying. But I am curious, because it might give them reason to ask questions.
Right.
Like, hey, can you explain this a little better? That was interesting. So I'll talk about real estate all day long. I love it.
I'm waiting for the water question to really, bubble up to the surface, and then we'll just let that one loose.
It's that's substantial. Like, water could seriously be like a series. I depending on who would listen to that, there might be people though that are, very upset with me. It's a imprecise. Everybody wants water to be factual, like math, black and white. 1 + 1 = 2. It's not how water works. But no, we're happy to do our best, and whatever curiosities our listeners have out there, we'll tackle them.
Keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Gives me the position to send zingers.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to revisiting next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.